There is a woman you probably know. Maybe she is you. Maybe she is your mother. Maybe she is the friend who always shows up with a smile so warm it fills the whole room. The one who remembers everyone's birthday. Who asks how you're doing. And actually listens. Who laughs at the right moments. And never complains. Not once. Not ever. She looks like she has everything. And in a way, she does. A house, a husband, children who love her. A life that, from the outside, looks like the answer to every prayer. But there is something you don't see. You don't see her at 11 o'clock at night, sitting on the edge of the bathtub, with the tap running, so nobody hears her cry. You don't see the way she flinches. Just slightly, just for a second, when she hears the front door open. You don't see her rehearsing sentences in her head before she speaks, softening them, shrinking them, making sure they cannot be called an attack. You don't see her apologizing. Not just with words, with her whole body, with the way she makes herself smaller in a room, with the way she laughs differently around him than she does around everyone else, with the way she has learned, over years and years and years, to read the temperature of a man's silence and adjust herself accordingly. Her name is Margaret, and this is her story. But before it is her story, I need you to understand something. What happened to Margaret did not happen all at once. There was no single moment she could point to and say, "There, that's where it started. That's where I lost myself." It happened the way a house gets dirty, when nobody cleans it. Slowly, so slowly you stop noticing, until one day you look up, and you can't remember what it looked like before. That is what this kind of pain does. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't leave bruises you can show people. It leaves something far harder to explain. A woman who has forgotten who she was before she started trying to be enough. Stay with me. Because Margaret's story does not end in that bathroom at 11 o'clock at night. It ends somewhere else entirely. Marcus was the kind of man who made a room better just by walking into it. Not in a loud way. Not in the way that demands attention. In the quiet, effortless way of someone who has always known exactly how to make people feel seen. He remembered names. He asked follow-up questions. He looked you in the eye when you talked to him. Really looked like you were the only person in the room worth talking to. Men respected him. Women adored him. Colleagues trusted him. Neighbors waved at him from across the street with genuine warmth. And Margaret, who had been 22 years old and holding a textbook and a coffee when she first met him, Margaret had felt, for the first time in her young life, truly chosen. He was 26, a mechanic, grease under his nails, and a smile that made her feel like the most important person in any room he was in. He pursued her with a kind of quiet, steady certainty that felt like safety, like being wanted, like coming home. She said yes to everything. Yes to the relationship. Yes to the apartment. Yes to the wedding. That happened faster than her mother thought was wise. Yes, yes, yes. Because when someone makes you feel that seen, that chosen, you don't stop to ask questions. You just hold on. But here is the thing about certain kinds of men. They do not show you everything at once. They show you the version of themselves you will fall in love with first. They let you build a life around that version. They let you make promises to that version. Have children with that version. Build a home around that version. And then, slowly, so slowly, the other version begins to appear. Not all at once. Never all at once. Just small things at first. So small you explain them away. He wants to know where she is at all times. Because he loves her. Because he worries. Because that's what it looks like when someone truly cares. He doesn't like certain friends of hers. Because he sees something in them she doesn't. Because he wants to protect her. He takes over the finances. Because he's better at it. Because he wants to take care of her. He goes quiet. Cold. Distant. Unreachable. When she does something he doesn't like. And that is where it begins. Not with the silence itself. With what she does in response to the silence. She apologizes. Margaret was 23. The first time she apologized. For something she hadn't done. She couldn't tell you now what it was. Something small. Something so small. It has dissolved entirely. Into the 24 years that followed. But she remembers the feeling. The way the silence in the car had weight to it. The way she ran back through the evening. Searching, searching, searching. For the things she had done wrong. And she found something. She always found something. That is the thing about guilt. Does not need a reason. It just needs a crack. And Marcus was very, very good at creating cracks. By the time they reached the drive, she was apologizing. Soft, careful, offering the words like something fragile. She was placing in his hands. And Marcus, patient, generous, forgiving Marcus, received them like a king receiving tribute. The warmth came back. The house breathed again. Margaret felt relief flood through her. Like warm water. And somewhere in the back of her mind, in a place she hadn't yet learned to listen to, something whispered, "This isn't right." She smiled over it. She had always been very good at that. It becomes automatic. That is the most frightening part. It becomes so automatic. You forget you're doing it. You forget there was ever a version of you who didn't do it. You're too sensitive. I was joking. Why do you always do this? I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. Here we go again with the feelings. This is why I don't talk to you. Over 2 decades, she stopped trusting her own memory, her own feelings, her own version of her own life. That was the design. Gaslight someone long enough, and they don't just doubt themselves. They outsource their reality to you. She didn't have an anxiety problem. She had a Marcus problem. Separate accounts. Like we're roommates. She never brought it up again. This is what your life looks like when I take my warmth away. Behave, and I'll keep the lights on. She'd learned to behave. Christmas 2011. Thomas was 10. Lily was 4. Margaret had spent 3 nights wrapping presents. After the children were asleep, she had planned Christmas morning. Down to the minute. Marcus hated surprises, so she had run the whole plan by him twice. Christmas Eve at dinner. She mentioned wanting to call her mother. Just a quick hello. Her mother was getting older. She missed her. Marcus did not answer. He set his fork down. He stood up. He walked upstairs. He did not come back down that night. On Christmas morning, he opened presents with the kids. In a voice so flat, it pressed all the warmth out of the room. He gave Margaret a robe. She said thank you, like she had won something. At 9 o'clock, when the children were asleep, she delivered the apology. She had been composing in her head all day. She apologized for wanting to call her mother. She called it making the holiday about me. She was 34 years old. It would be 12 more years before she wrote a different kind of list. Lily was different. From the time she was very small, she had been watching, cataloging, filing things away, without yet having the words for what she was noticing. The way her mother's posture changed. The moment her father walked into a room. The way her mom's laugh was different. Lighter, freer, more real. When he wasn't there. The way an apology could appear on her mother's face. Before anyone had said anything wrong at all. One Saturday in October, Lily found her mother standing at the kitchen sink. Not washing dishes. Just standing, looking out at the garden, where the last tomatoes of the season had gone soft on the vine. "Mom." Margaret turned. The smile appeared instantly, automatically, like a light switching on. "Are you okay?" "Of course," Margaret said. "Just thinking." Lily looked at her. Really looked. "You're always just thinking," she said quietly. Not accusing. Just true. Something cracked almost behind Margaret's eyes. A door almost opened. Then she sealed it shut. "You want eggs?" she said. The cruelest part was never the cruelty. It was the contrast. At Thomas's college graduation, Marcus gave a toast that made grown men cry. He pulled Margaret close and called her the heart of this family. That same week, he had given her 5 days of silence for making dinner reservations without consulting him. She apologized for wanting chocolate cake at her daughter's birthday. She would sit with that sentence months later, and it would light something Marcus could not put out. February. The kind of cold that has been going on too long. She had a pen. She had been writing a grocery list. She stopped, turned the paper over, and she started writing down every single thing she could remember apologizing for. Not just this year. All of it. Sorry for making dinner plans without asking. Sorry for crying when you said that. Sorry for being too sensitive. Sorry for what I spent at the grocery store. Sorry for laughing too loud. Sorry for suggesting separate accounts. Sorry for the chocolate cake. Sorry for calling my mother on Christmas Eve. Sorry for having an opinion. Sorry for... She filled the page. Flipped it. Kept going. She read the list back. Slowly. And she looked. Genuinely looked. For the part where she had actually done something wrong. She couldn't find it. Not one line. 24 years of sorry. And not one line. Where she'd actually, truly needed to be. Something inside Margaret something that had been bent at a painful angle since she was 22. Quietly, permanently, finally decided. It was done being bent. She folded the paper, slipped it into her cardigan pocket. When Marcus came downstairs, she handed him his coffee and smiled. Not the offering, not the performance. The smile of a woman who had just found the door and was already walking toward it. She didn't explode. The explosion had already happened. Quietly, at a kitchen table, with a grocery list pen. She called a lawyer. From the hospital parking lot, she opened her own account. Different bank. She started moving part of her salary there. Carefully. Completely. She called her sister Carol. I need you to just listen. Don't say I told you so. Just listen. Carol listened for 2 hours. I've been waiting for this call. For 15 years. Maggie. I know. I'm sore. She stopped herself, caught the word in her mouth, and laughed. Because even now, her first instinct was to apologize. Then she told Lily. Mom, I've watched you apologize to him my whole life. For things that were never your fault. I thought that's just what marriage was. I was watching you. To learn what to do. That hit Margaret like ice water. That is not what love looks like. She said. Love does not require you to disappear. I know that now. Lily said. Because I'm watching you leave. She told Marcus on a Saturday. The kids weren't home. I'm leaving. I have a lawyer. I have my own account. I've found a place. I'm not here to fight. I'm telling you. Because you deserve to hear it from me directly. I know this version. She said. No heat. Just clarity. What I am now is simply finished. She felt the old silence reach out. Like a reflex. Like a weapon that no longer worked. She felt it land. And felt nothing. Not numb. Free. She walked down the hall. Opened the front door. February air hit her face. Cold. Clean. Honest. She walked out. No looking back. Not because it didn't hurt. It did. But there was nothing behind her. That required her apology. And she was done apologizing. 6 months later, Lily visited the new apartment. 2nd floor. Big windows. Tomato plants on the balcony. 3 varieties. Chosen entirely by Margaret. Accountable to no one. Harold the dog had claimed the left side of the couch. They cooked her mother's pasta. Lily burned the garlic. Margaret said that's fine. Start again. Actually fine. Not performed fine. Just fine. Mom. You seem like yourself. I am. She said. I've always been her. I just spent 24 years. Letting someone convince me. She was the problem. She stood in her kitchen. Her couch. Her tomatoes. Her dog. And the silence was nothing like the silence in the old house. It didn't have weight or threat. It was just quiet. The good kind. The kind that belongs to you. She made tea. And sat by the window. And felt something settle into her chest. Like something returning home. Herself. She had the most beautiful smile people had ever seen. Now they finally understood why. It was real. This story is for you. If you have ever said sorry, just to bring the warmth back. If you have ever cried at night, without making a sound. If you have ever rehearsed a sentence 4 times in your head before speaking it, just to make sure, couldn't be used against you. If you have ever looked in the mirror and genuinely believed, not because anyone hit you, not because there were bruises anyone could see, but because someone spent years quietly, patiently, carefully convincing you that you were the problem. You were not the problem. You were never the problem. Love does not require you to disappear. Write the list. Look for the part where you were actually wrong. And see what you find. If this story moved you, please share it. Not for this channel. For the woman who needs it. The one who smiles too much in public and cries too quietly at night. The one who needs to know she is not crazy, not too much, not alone. Subscribe to Twin Lens for more stories like this one. Every week. Real, raw, human. Your share might be the Tuesday morning she has been waiting for.